Welcome to the All-Star Networking Podcast. It's the show where you hear from a new expert each week on how to build an all-star network, increase business sales, grow careers, find a job, or enrich your life. Let's get it started. From the Midtown Global Market in Minneapolis, here's your host, Kathy Paper.
Hi, this is Kathy Paper with the All-Star Networking Show here at Midtown Global Market. I've got my trusty producer, Matt. Matt is the executive director of the Friends of the Midtown Global Market. You can find out more on the website. And joining me today is my both friend and business associate, I would say, Jolly Nanda, the founder of VIKRITI Management Consulting. Jolly, give a little hello to our listeners.
Well, hello, and it's a pleasure to be here, and it's nice to meet Matt as well.
Excellent. Well, thank you for being here. You know, a network is such an important part of businesses, no matter what size you are, or people professionally, as you're making connections and getting out there. That to talk to you, I was thinking, is such an exciting story, because I didn't know whether to say whether we're friends or business associates or both, because this is the blurry part of networking.
Right.
And I guess as you've had such an impressive professional career, you know, thinking about why is networking so important in your role? What's your thoughts on just even the word networking?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we're all, we're social animals, right? And I think we have to have a network professionally as well as personally, to lean on each other, to learn from each other, and help each other. And I think it's just really important to have a diverse network so that, you're really making connections with people that don't have either the skill set or the experiences that you have, so that you can leverage them as you expand your network, your career, and even for personal growth, right? I think as leaders, as humans, you kind of need to have that.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I love the both personally and professionally piece of networking and having that diverse network. But I like Jolly how you broke it down to skill sets and experiences.
Yeah. I mean, I think, we all know that, everyone's different, right? And it's good to know your strengths and weaknesses in terms of, what skills you have and you're great at, and what skills, you kind of aren't so sure about or aren't as confident about. And it's great to surround yourself with people that have those strengths, so you can sort of have that symbiotic relationship and learn from them, lean on them, and grow through that experience.
Which is, I love the idea of the surrounding yourself with different people and that strength and weaknesses. I once read that little children, when they're sitting next to each other, they sit really close next to each other and they learn. And when they're in the classroom, they're close together. And as we get older, we keep more distance from people.
Yeah.
And you don't learn as closely shoulder to shoulder. I
think it's because, as you grow older, you become insecure in showing your insecurities, right? In that people will judge you that you don't know something, or you're not, strong in a certain aspect of a skill or something. But I think as children, we're so open to absorbing anything that's out there.
Right. Well, and, I just think about, when I started my business 15 years ago, leaving Best Buy, if ever there's a time to be both insecure, but also know you need people around you and need a network, and all the businesses here in the market, you need a network, you need customers. Maybe just talk a little bit. I know you, as your career evolved from being more corporate to then starting your own business, when did you start, or how did you start building your network? Or have you always just had people around you?
So I would say, that just evolves over time, right? I think, you work and you develop a network at work. And then through your, personal contacts, as they evolve as well, your network just grows. I think for me, I think I started focusing on my network it was almost twofold. And I think you have the saying about network with purpose, right?
Yeah.
And I really value that, because I think you have to bring something to the table as well, right? It has to be, a give and take. And so on the personal side, it's either, when you're trying to learn something, or you're moving to a new place, or you're in a different stage of life, like have kids, and we're, different schools and stuff and things like that. But I think professionally too, that I'm a jack of all trades, and I try different things. And as you move from a role to another, right, that you don't know everything. And I think it would be extremely arrogant for anyone to say that, they don't rely on a network to learn from. So I think that's where it stemmed from, is whenever you change roles, or whenever I changed roles, I really leaned on my network to learn more about, and I think I'm just a continuous learner, I guess.
You are a continuous learner, but I like the idea of you focused on the network, or when you change roles, and then also just that give and take. And, we were talking about just earlier, we're here in the market, and you can hear the buzz of people coming for lunch today. And we were talking about, where do you park? There's all different options with parking. So I always think, when I'm going to any event, I want to know, where do I park? You ask your friends, where do you park? So just another example of learning things from your network. As you have been building your network, what has been sort of a challenge? Okay, you're laughing.
Yeah, I'm laughing because I think this about me. I'm very much an introvert, right? And so it's been a struggle, right? Because that whole networking with purpose is, if I'm doing it professionally, it's much harder for me, because I always want to make sure that I'm bringing something to the table that the other party is interested in or can gain from, because otherwise it's just like I'm one-sided, right? Where either I'm the one that gains something, and it makes me not feel good about it.
Right.
So that's been difficult for me. Like, if I look throughout, even personally, that I try to figure out, like, if I'm going to reach out to somebody, is it something that they want to hear about, or do they want to hear from me about that? And just because I am an introvert, it's just difficult. And large events, and kind of just blindly meeting people, right? Speed dating professionally is tough.
Large events and speed dating. I'm going to just pause, though, and say to anyone listening, whether you're introverted or extroverted, I believe we all have the same feelings about networking until we sort of find our groove.
Right.
Or our ability to just be ourselves, to be authentic. And you are one of the most authentic people I know. And yes, it is harder, more challenging when you're professionally networking, because you're just more self-conscious. So I recommend to people at least, volunteer or start with things that feel really natural, and then think, how did you do it? So actually, because again, I think you're an amazing networker and an amazing connector. You just did it before this show started, but where have you done volunteering, or do you help job seekers, or maybe where do you not feel uncomfortable? I know large events you don't like, but where do you just feel like, okay, I've got my groove?
I think, like smaller events where the purpose is very clear. I think that's where I have my groove.
Yep.
It's only when it's kind of, the purpose is kind of multi-purpose and it's kind of scattered all over, and then you're like, okay, well, this is, it's like, how do you find the right connections, and how do you put yourself out there so people can see, maybe what you bring to the table that you want to connect with.
Well, and I'm going to just, again, say that in the survey that I did of 600 people on networking, the larger the group gets. So we're doing a one-on-one conversation, which is, lovely. But the larger it gets from, okay, if you take 3 people to lunch and then it moves to 20 people and then it's a room of 200, the more everyone starts to not know what's my purpose, what am I doing?
Exactly.
So good for you for going to those places.
But then I think there's also the aspect of, when you have multiple people, you want to add, something meaningful to the conversation. And so you also want to listen, right? And so I think I take like a step back and I want to listen to what other people have to say. And if I don't think I can add anything to the conversation, it's like, okay, well, I'm happy just listening.
Yeah, but I was going to say, I give you an A+ for, we were just at the Meta event celebrating their 50th anniversary.
Yes.
And we went up to a couple and you made the conversation so easy and, again, A+. So let's get tactical for a second to think about, how do you decide what to participate in? You're busy running a business, you're raising a family, you're juggling it all. How do you decide where to spend your time?
I think it's all about prioritization, right? And prioritizing what needs to get done when. And based on that, you can kind of juggle, what's the most critical thing that needs to get done now. And then you throw in a couple of strategic things in there. So you're making progress on your strategic things. So it's always a mix of, I'm very pragmatic about what needs to get done. And then mix the very tactical things with some of the strategic things to make your day diverse and interesting. And that's kind of how I plan my day, is let's have a little bit of both.
A little bit of both. Excellent. So, because I did, you and I worked together on a big project with Zappos.
Yes.
And do you do things on the screen and off the screen? Because you had already been online this morning. We're here again at lunchtime.
Yeah.
And so how do you make that decision?
I guess you have to know in advance, right? If you're going to be on screen, off screen, if you're going to have to drive someplace. So it's just all about planning and making sure that, you try to drive efficiency, but also I would say you also want to drive quality of your interactions. So if the quality of the interaction is going to be enhanced by one-on-one or actually meeting in person, then I'm all for it. But if it has no impact on the quality of that, then there's just a lot of screen time and online meetings, and you just kind of have to plan your day in that there's screen time, there's meeting time, and then there has to be decompression time and personal time.
So this is a great one that you said, driving the quality of the interactions, because again, you and I met through a friend, Michelle, and I noticed right away you are much more comfortable with the technology than I am.
Yes.
And again, for people listening, I know how to download podcasts, but when Teams and Zoom and all of that started, that was all a new experience for me. How do you decide, when you take that relationship off the screen? Let's say you start building, you meet somebody in a meeting, or maybe you meet them on Instagram. You follow them and you like, again, we're sitting across the street from the Maps Coffee shop here at the market. So for anyone that's listening, you go to the Instagram, you see somebody. How do you make the jump from online to in person?
So there has to be a mutual need or a want, right, to meet in person. So I think the quickest way is to, if you find that common ground or common interest, the quickest way is basically to say, hey, let's meet for coffee. I think those are the best because it's the time commitment is less.
So do you, thinking about your networking or how you've built relationships with people, are there any other tips you would share? Anything that's kind of bubbling up for you?
I think the younger generation is far more, equipped to making connections and networking. I see that in, say, the nieces I have, and how they quickly expand their network and leverage the tools that they have access to. I think about how one of my nieces and Kathy's daughter, we, just recently connected up in New York, and, they're able to then expand their networks and, again, both professionally and personally, add value. And so I think because young people, like you said, like different experiences, I think they also know that as they move, I think it stems from building connection and just building friendship. But I also see that they connect professionally and know that, okay, they need to grow professionally and they need to reach out. And we've had interns in our organization to come in. It's great being able to support them and helping them expand their networks, so that not only can they look at, hey, what's my next role, but how do I grow a skill set, right? And how do I learn from someone else? And I think that's really important. But with all of the social media platforms there are today, I mean, I think these kids are just experts.
They are. It's interesting, your question, Matt, about how do the young people network is I think they're very good at it. And they almost don't even know they're good at it.
Exactly. They do it unintentionally.
Right. A lot of people have grown up using Snapchat where you know where people are by location. And what your niece and my daughter did is we both said, oh, they're in New York.
Right.
And then we connected them on LinkedIn, maybe?
No, I think just via text.
Via text. We connected them, via text. And then they met up and probably followed each other on Instagram. And then they said, oh, let's meet. And now they've met up several times. Now they've talked about work. They've expanded their circles. Their friends have met each other's friends. And I don't even know if they would know they were networking, maybe because you and I talk about networking a lot. But I think they're very natural. The other piece, at least my observation, is sometimes people forget, though, to get in person. So they're busy. And what we talked about earlier is, whatever stage of life you are is, I think you want to have that balance of in-person and, texting. I heard somebody tell me yesterday they only text with people now, with their friends, and I wanted to say, but it's more fun. Meet somebody for lunch if you're in the same city.
Yeah, that is true. But the advantage of being young is, with all of the new technology, and social media platforms there are, I think they are just, on all of them. And not only do they have the time and I would say want to meet in person and desire to meet in person, but I think, the platforms that they use basically encourages that network expansion automatically, right? And I think for people in our generation, we limit our social media time and what platforms we're on, and just because I think it's just natural. But that's another key difference I see between the two.
But again, I'd say this too, and I'm excited we're going to go have lunch now. Salsa a la salsa. So thank you for hosting us today. We're recording here. We're checking out all places in the market, but to network with a purpose. So again, I'm so grateful to you. I think you're a real mentor for so many people in the medical device area. You serve on boards. You're very strategic. You're just a wonderful person networking with purpose. So thank you for your time today and for being here on the All-Star Networking Show at Midtown Global Market.
Oh, thank you very much for having me on. This has been great.
Thank you for listening to the All-Star Networking Podcast with Kathy Paper. To learn more about strategic networking and making impactful connections, visit rockpaperstar.com. Please join us in supporting the Midtown Global Market as a vital community resource that supports small business, cultural diversity, and free or low-cost programming. Reach us at friendsofglobalmarket.org.